podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It was a really, really, truly special moment, that goal. I mean, last-minute equalisers and winners and stuff are wonderful, but our friend Musa Okwonga, who was on the podcast last week, described Robin van Persie on the touchline on the subs bench as being like the wolf from Pulp Fiction, just ready to come in and sort everything out, and it certainly came to pass. A very subpar Manchester United performance all in all, but quite spectacular way to end that game.
Yes, absolutely stunning way to end the game. Fantastic contribution from Van Persie. I mean, let's go right back. Unbelievable pass from Giggs on the half volley, more than 50 yards. Weighted just absolutely perfectly. First touch by Van Persie, takes it past the player. Second touch, sets it up to shoot. Third into the back of the net. One of the goals of the season, clearly. And in the final minute to earn United the draw, keep United in the cup, keep that dream alive of another FA Cup victory. 9 years since the last one now. Perfect, brilliant moment. Wasn't entirely convinced it was going to happen for a long time. It wasn't a wonderful performance by United by any means. I don't think we really expected one, though.
No, just before the incredible moment, Giggs missed a header from 6 yards out, and everyone sort of went, oh, that's it, that's our chance gone. And I thought back to the Newcastle game, where we missed a couple of chances at 3-3, and I thought, you know what, there's something about the character of this United side where I'm back to believing again, and I thought, I'm not convinced that is the chance gone, and then lo and behold, Giggs' incredible pass, and you say one of the goals of the season, and certainly it was one of the goals of the season, but legitimately I think it's one of the best goals I've ever seen in my life, just in terms of the technique from both aspects, the incredible pass. The bit I enjoyed more than anything else is the first touch. To pull the ball out of the sky like that and then immediately provide yourself with the option for the second touch, which set him so brilliantly. In issue 0 of The Blizzard, there's an interview with Dennis Bergkamp, and he talks about the three-touch rule, really, that great goals tend to be about 3 touches. This was entirely Bergkamp-esque. 3 touches to perfection, and yeah, I'm not sure I've enjoyed a goal more for many years in terms of its aesthetic qualities.
I mean, perfect from that point of view, wasn't it? And technically superb. Just a lovely, lovely goal. I'm not sure it quite ranks up there with Bergkamp's wonder goal of the years past, but not far off it. And, you can argue about that one, of course, but just a great moment as well. And I think great goals are scored in great moments. And sure, this wasn't the cup final or anything like that, and third round away from home, but just a fantastic moment to keep United in it. And I think the FA Cup is important, and I know it's well down the list of priorities for United, but I think it's too long since we won it. And okay, there were 2005-2007 finals, both disappointments, but it feels like in a lot of years haven't quite taken it that seriously, and I think it's about time United gave it another real shot. Difficult, of course, with United being top of the league and still in Europe, and I guess we'll see where both of those go, and of course this adds another game into the schedule in January, which is now looking like an awful lot of games before the tie with Madrid.
Yeah, although we can't really complain about the fixtures in relation to that Madrid game, because I believe they play Barcelona immediately before and after us, and I think we play Norwich in between them.
Well, you're saying Norwich aren't up to the same standard? The rivalry between United and Norwich is non-existent.
Although the Chaos crew, Norwich's number 1 youth firm, no doubt would be trying to do something about that.
What are we going to call it? El Tractoro?
No, that's Norwich against Ipswich, isn't it? That's already happened. It's got to be El Mustard Co. No, that doesn't work either, does it?
I think we should move on quickly.
Yeah, let's do that. The West Ham game then, overall, good solid start from United, went out in front, but then some really sloppy defending. Joe Cole getting a lot of plaudits for his impressive return to West Ham, 2 gorgeous crosses, real carbon copy goals, but very suspect defending. He really shouldn't have been allowed to get, especially the first cross off, and the second one, James Collins completely unmarked in the box. Scholes culpable for both of those. Joe Cole, who was slow to get out to Joe Cole for the cross, and just let Collins breeze past him into the box, didn't pick him up for the second. So
yeah, you can apply some blame in some quite a few areas. yes, crosses should have been stopped from coming in. First one, Vidic lost his man. Second one, no one was marking Collins. Whether it was Vidic's man or Smalling's, they didn't sort it out. So pretty horrendous, I've got to say. I mean, some really, really basic stuff there. And West Ham, I guess, deserve the lead because there's lots of energy and intensity, and none from United for a long time. It felt like there was some kind of lack of urgency, and I'm sure that's not really the case. I think it was just more of a lack of fluency, but the ball didn't move quickly enough, and the passing wasn't good enough. I mean, funny thing was, in the first half, United had something like 75% possession. Loads and loads and loads of possession, and that kind of changed in the second half. West Ham were far more in it and got their rewards as a result.
I thought United played some really excellent stuff in the first half. Kagawa really effective, buzzing around, knocking the ball about nicely. Although, to return to a debate we had months ago, you could argue there was a lack of end product for all that. But, fairly metronomic performance from Kagawa, I thought. But then in the second half, he completely dropped out of it, and it was very shaky from United. West Ham got right back into it.
They really did, yeah, and United were very, very close to heading out as a result. I mean, one goal aside, United would be dumped out of the FA Cup by now, and that would be a real shame. But it's not the case, and we've got to replay in, I guess, a week or so's time now. I think it's scheduled for the 16th, I believe, and you'd say United would be favourites for that now because it's at home, and there will be more changes for sure. I mean, I talked about that heavy schedule. I think there's something like 8 games between now and the Madrid game. It's something like 2 a week, the first Madrid game, so it is a pretty heavy schedule, and there will be rotation, and the FA Cup will be the target for that rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was disappointing from United, but once again, it just goes to show what we've talked about so much, how much adding Van Persie to the squad has made a difference to our overall competence as a squad, our effectiveness, and if he stays fit, then competing on all fronts seems realistic. And then, he only needed a 10-minute cameo to do his work in this one. It really was Harvey Keitel-esque. He was just in and out, boom, sorted, no problem, move on to the next one. He'll have to play the whole game against Liverpool, won't he? So we didn't tire him out too much with that one, but you do wonder, we've already become slightly reliant on him. Although, look, Rooney's out. There's been a very heavy period of fixtures. We still lack depth in the midfield, so we had to play both Scholes and Giggs, although once again Giggs proving his worth substantially. But I really am, I've said it before, I am properly worried about Scholes. I think it's starting to give the little bad shudder down the spine when you see his name on the starting lineup, and this is one of my very favourite players of all time I'm talking about,
Yeah, he's not been having a good time of it. Giggs, a lovely renaissance of sorts. Who knows how long it will last, but let's enjoy it because I think he'll be gone by the end of the season, and it's just great to see him playing again. It kind of reminds me of that time that, remember when he had a season or so of really bad form, and then there was a debate about a new contract, and suddenly he was world class again?
Yeah.
I'm being a cynic, but I actually don't think he will stay on Giggs beyond the end of the season, because generally his performances have degraded highly, and he's not been used by Ferguson until recently, and he's had a really, really good extended Christmas, and good on him.
I mean, what do you think about Scholes? Am I overreacting, or is there a problem?
I don't think he's had a great season at all, and I think he looks physically shot, and I'm sure a lot of the reason why he was able to perform for the second half of last season was because he was only performing for half a season.
Then the week in between the two games happened, and the biggest highlight of the football calendar this week was Leo Messi's polka dot nod to Maradona, the polka dot suit that he wore to the Ballon d'Or, and he absolutely swept it, and deservedly so. Poor old Cristiano Ronaldo pouting a bit and sad that his club don't back him to the hilt or whatever it is that's stopping him winning. But frankly, I think the thing that's stopping him winning is he's playing in the same era as possibly the best of all time. I mean, I can't see an argument that says Messi shouldn't have won that, can you?
No, I mean, I suppose if you take the argument that Ronaldo actually won some trophies, there's a solid argument. I mean, he scored 60 goals in 55 games. That's pretty bloody good in the year, and won some key trophies with Real Madrid, and Messi, brilliant individual year, not so great in terms of his club. So that would be the only argument. Yeah, he did score 80-odd goals in the year, though.
He did win the European Championships with Spain as well, didn't he? Oh, no, wait a minute, I've got confused there.
Interesting, the Ballon d'Or, though, because some strange selections, not only from some of the coaches. Young Song-soo of North Korea voted Wayne Rooney the second best player in the world.
Clearly.
Interesting. Yaba Kankava, captain of Georgia, voted for Rooney as the best player on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt about it. There were some even stranger ones that didn't have Messi or Ronaldo in there. Joachim Löw voted for Mesut Ozil, who's not having a great time this season, and Manuel Neuer has his number 1 and 2.
It's crazy.
Clearly, anyone who doesn't have Messi as 1 and 2, Messi and Ronaldo as 1 and 2, or in whichever order you want to put it, is as you put it earlier when you spoke. Wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Wesley Sneijder proved that once again he's definitely coming to Manchester United by picking Robin van Persie as his player of the year. Good lad, Wes. That's what we like to see. Wesley Sneijder is a Red. He's off to Galatasaray by all the looks of it.
I wonder whether that's just media speculation. I'm sure they'd love to buy him. Whether he'd take a step down that far, I'm not sure.
It's really remarkable, though, how far his stock's fallen in such a short space of time, isn't it? And you can't help thinking, I wonder if he's terribly regretting not taking the opportunity to join the most magnificent team in the world at the point in which he could have done.
Well, indeed, that's his loss if that one was ever really on. And in the team of the year, Dani Alves, who's had a horrible year. It does make you wonder whether a lot of the voting isn't just on fame and rather than actual performances.
I mean, Gerard Piqué legitimately has not been as good as Johnny Evans in the last calendar 12 months, I'm not just saying that, it's true. Interesting question from @ChrisK93 saying, given that the FIFA Pro 11 was all La Liga, what would be your World 11 excluding La Liga players? We'll pick a position each to make this go a bit quicker. I'm having goalkeeper, and I'm definitely going to take Buffon.
Who was voted the best player by quite a few, actually, surprisingly enough.
Quite a few Italian people.
You'd think the voting would actually disregard voting for your home country, wouldn't you? But it doesn't.
Did Darren Fletcher have Messi in his top 3, by the way? Because he definitely had Ronnie at number 1, and I'm not sure he had Messi in there.
They went for Cristiano, Messi and Van Persie.
Oh, that's all right then. Good lad. So Buffon in goal. Who would you have at right back in a non-La Liga 11, Ed?
Philipp Lahm.
Yeah, I think that's a nice, easy answer. I actually think left back's open to debate. So a brilliant statistical analysis by Giggs Bosun, which is also the official best username on Twitter, as everyone knows, comparing the contribution of Ashley Cole and Patrice Evra, and Patrice Evra comes out very nicely in that. But I think given his performance in basically being the most important player in Chelsea's side on the route to the Champions League, it'd be harsh not to have Ashley Cole at left back.
Yeah, but it's Ashley Cole.
Yeah, I know, but I'm putting that to one side for...
It's a World 11, not a 11.
I'm putting my prejudices to one side for a moment. All right, so you get to pick a centre-half.
Before that, the captain of the Turks and Caicos Islands is called Davilmar Rodney, prize for the best name of all the voters.
It's pretty good. Who did he vote for?
Mr. Rodney voted for Messi, Ronaldo and Falcao, the big 3.
Yeah, he's taking the Hodgson approach, the safe approach.
The very safe approach.
All right, so who do you have at centre-half then, Ed?
Well, can you look past Iker Casillas' vote for best player in the world, Sergio Ramos?
No, he's got to be a non-La Liga player, Ed.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I think you'd probably, at least on the first half of the year, have Vincent Kompany in there. I think he was the best defender in the English league last season. But maybe not for the second part of the year, though.
I'm going to have Mats Hummels in there with him.
Who is a wonderful player and had a great Euro tournament.
Yeah, and that's all I'm picking. I'm like one of those, captains of an obscure squad in the middle of the South Pacific Islands who hasn't actually watched any football all year, but I did see the Euros. Mats Hummels looked really good. So then, left midfield.
What formation are we going for here?
I think the standard 4-4-2, I think, is the formation that you pick a World 11 in, isn't it?
I can't have Giggsy.
Yeah, you can have Giggsy. Why not? If you think he's been the best left-sided midfielder in the world in the past 12 months...
In the past 12 days, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, don't laugh too hard, mate. The TB's not going well.
It's not.
If you want to donate to Paul's medical fund, it's united.co.uk/BadAidsPaul.
Oh, that makes me so sad. I'm feeling a bit better. Thank you for all your concern, listeners. After last week's show, got quite a few tweets asking whether I was still alive.
Well, I think people were concerned about the terrible audio quality that you're emitting. If you're going to die, will you just do it a bit quickly and quietly?
Yeah, sorry. Quiet's not a problem. You're just stalling because you can't think of a left midfielder who's been good who didn't play in La Liga, aren't you?
Well, quite, yeah, probably.
I don't really know. I can't really think of a left winger that's been impressive this season. I'm going to go for a slightly out of position Mario Götze, I think. Although he's been injured for most of the last 12 months. And I'm really just, if I'm being completely honest, thinking about my Football Manager 2012 team. All the rest of the positions I'm not really bothered about, except that I'd have Ibrahimovic and Van Persie up front together. And that would be the most wonderful thing that anyone had ever seen ever.
And then based on the last 12 months, you'd have to have Pirlo in there, who's been outstanding for Juve, taking them to Serie A, and for Italy in the summer. You might think about how you might get some other players like Edison Cavani, the Napoli striker, who's wonderful, in there. Sergio Aguero, of course, had a fantastic year with Manchester City, perhaps not so much in the second half. Of course, several people, he can't be included because he's a non-La Liga 11, voted for Sergio Busquets as number one player in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's absolutely true, so long as that's the type of thing you want out of a footballer. Lots of diving and stuff.
You might also think about David Silva and Juan Mata.
Yeah.
A couple of Spaniards, but playing in the Premier League, both had excellent years. Juan Mata more than Silva, I'd argue. And then some of the Germans who have been great at club level and great for Germany this summer, Thomas Müller, okay at club level, been pretty good with Germany. Marco Reus, now there's an up-and-coming player, absolutely fantastic with Borussia Dortmund. So I'm just naming a whole bunch of my favourite players here.
That was good. I'm happy to listen to that.
They're all had, really good 2012s.
I think apart from Van Persie, you're going to struggle to get any United players in there, but a little shout from me for Michael Carrick, just because of my undying love for him. I'm not sure if he quite belongs in that lineup.
This turned my world upside down because the world's greatest player, TM, didn't make the team.
Who's the world's greatest player, TM?
Gareth Bale, obviously.
Yeah, we're picking trying to think of good left midfielders. We had a spot open for left midfielders. I didn't even think about Gareth Bale. He is good, Gareth Bale. Like, it's a bit, he gets picked on a lot because he's
a bit divey.
He is a bit divey, but I do think he's slightly less divey than people make him out to be, and he's just a bit runny fasty, No, he's pretty divey. There's a lot of talk about diving again and whether it's all right to go down if you feel contact and all that stuff.
Steady on, this is a family show.
You know that Against Modern Football banner? I just want a banner that says contact is not a foul. A foul is impeding another player, not touching them, So yeah, all in all, you can't really argue too much with Messi getting that number one spot, can you, Ed?
No, you can't. He was the best player in the world last year, much as we would have liked Cristiano to win, of course.
I don't know that I would, particularly. I don't get it. He used to play for us, and now he doesn't anymore, and he's at the club he wants to be. There was an article went doing the rounds. Everyone was going, see how much he loves us. He said something along the lines of, it would be weird if I scored against Man United. And then he basically, I'd be sad about that. But then he said the way I would be happy is by getting my team through. He doesn't care about you guys, He's moved on. We all have to move on with our lives. We found a new, nicer, kinder world superstar now, sort of grey-haired, mature figure to replace the petulant arrogance of our previous love, We've swung to the opposite end of the spectrum. We've got Van Persie now. We can all just calm down and let Ronnie go.
Gone for a bit of MILF. Mature and classy.
Yeah, absolutely. Not particularly classy. I'm now going to interject with some Twitter questions, just because I feel like it. And a question from @AmplifiedToRock, which I feel uniquely qualified to answer. Which current United players would be the best Muppets? Conversely, which Muppets would make the best Man United players? I think Rio Ferdinand has got a certain Muppet-like quality. He's very sort of larger than life. He's very enthusiastic. I think it would work. And as for which Muppets would make the best United players, I think you got to have the great Gonzo in there. There's a little bit of danger, a little bit of, flair, and sort of nobody else would really know what he was doing. And then ultimately you want Kermit sat on the sidelines calling the shots because, he makes good decisions time after time. He's a brilliant man manager or pig manager or bear manager under the circumstances. And I think he's a clear candidate to replace Sir Alex, actually. Ed, I'm presuming you don't have any strong thoughts on which Man United players would make the best Muppets.
Not really, to be fair. Anderson is Fuzzy Bear, though.
There you go, see? You always pull out the unexpected gem on those types of questions. @Kononoff asks, is it me or is ORVP getting more and more grey with every goal that he scores? #Rankcast, #SilverFox. It's true, actually. I feel like every new goal springs another grey hair on his head. And
There are quite a lot, aren't there? He's gone a bit Giggsy with all the grey. It just makes him look, even more dashing.
Talking of Van Persie and Giggs, absolutely one of the highlights of the week for me was MUTV clip of an interview, which is after the West Ham game, and it's just a little interview with Van Persie, and at the end Stuart Gardner asks him, what about Giggsy, and Van Persie just kind of loses it, bursts out laughing, just absolutely filled with professional respect for Giggs, just like, what a guy, what a player, he is incredible, at his age, and you can tell he's just absolutely blown away by him, and it is lovely to see Van Persie's reaction to playing with a better class of players than he's been used to, and that's clearly part of the reason why he's fitting in so well at the club.
Yeah, he almost wasted 8 years, didn't he?
He did indeed. At Wasim Velji says, Spain got plaudits for winning the Euros with a false nine. Why isn't Fergie getting any recognition for using a false midfield?
Well, he's defined a new tactical era, I think, Ferguson, the donut, No one's ever done it before and succeeded, and it looks like Ferguson's going to do it now. Though it's kind of lopsided donut, it's just really fat on one side.
Which side?
The attacking side, the bit with all the jam oozing out. That you don't eat jam in a ring donut, but hey, it's not the point.
It's not the point, but I like it. I guess we need to talk about something that I didn't really want to talk about, but it won't go away. It's like being seriously discussed in the media that for some reason, in spite of what looked to the untrained eye to be a series of increasingly solid, impressive performances, Ferguson's losing patience with De Gea.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether this just isn't, a media following media on one story and it gets repeated around and suddenly it's Ferguson's losing patience. I mean, he didn't rotate him for the FA Cup game. He's played a good solid string of games right at the moment. I don't think United are going to be buying another goalkeeper in the January window, and as it stands, De Gea is number one for the rest of the season. As it stands, there may be a change in there somewhere, but he appears to have dropped the rotation policy. De Gea's number one. I can't see any reason why he won't be number one for the Liverpool game and for the cup replay with West Ham after that.
Do you think it's paper talk then? You don't hear anything coming out of United that makes you think that there is serious concerns about De Gea's long-term future?
No, my weekly chat with Fergie, he didn't say anything about it.
What did he say?
Oh, hi.
It's good. That's what he says every week, isn't it?
So no, I don't think so. That Mirror story also said United were targeting Pepe Reina as their number one choice. So that's just how credible that piece.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, these people get paid to write this stuff. The Begovic thing makes sense to me, but not really, because he's not going to want to be number two. You don't want De Gea to be number two. You just need to stick with it. And I feel so confident that in 2 seasons' time, David De Gea will be the unquestionably held up to be the best keeper in the Premier League. And I don't know, maybe it's a false confidence. Maybe it's overrating that incredible shot-stopping power he's got and just assuming that the rest of it's going to take care of itself. But it just feels like it's getting better, and it feels like he does get ever more impressive when he plays those strings of games.
Yeah, and I think his performances have been good, haven't they?
Absolutely.
You can blame him for either of West Ham's goals. That's not his ball to come and claim. And, the defensive organisation should have been coming from the centre-backs there. If you're going to start dropping players based on errors, then Nemanja Vidic would be out the side. And I don't think anyone would actually advocate that.
No, absolutely. So, having gone back to the West Ham game, I'm not quite ready to finish talking about that goal. Been thinking about it a lot this week. And at Brandon Ulrich 2 asks, where does ORVP's latest wonder rank in the pantheon of United goals? Which is basically just an excuse to talk about some of our favourite United goals ever.
Well, in terms of the quality, I mean, it's right up there in terms of, some of the best I've ever seen. I mean, you can't look much beyond Paul Scholes' wonder volley against Bradford, can you? Ryan Giggs' mazy run, David Beckham's 60-yarder, all of those in the last 25 years. George Best's gorgeous chip that was good enough to win the Grand National. A couple of Bobby Dazzler blasters, and so on and so on.
Cantona, all Cantona's goals, even the ones that weren't that good because they were scored by Cantona.
His run and chip against Sunderland.
Yeah, that chip against Sunderland.
The control and the lob over the Crystal Palace keeper.
Yeah, a couple of Rooney ones in there as well. The wonder goal against City.
The volley against Newcastle where he almost burst the back of the net on the full.
Chip against Portsmouth, I think, in the FA Cup as well. Cantona-esque. A really beautiful one. Ronaldo, bunch of phenomenal Ronaldo goals, aren't there?
Stunning one against Portsmouth, I remember, 40-odd yards out.
It's pretty good, that Ronaldo. But, we've been absolutely spoiled. In terms of meaning as well, in particular the Scholes goal against Barcelona.
Norman Whiteside, left foot, curled round the Everton defence into the corner to win the 85 Cup final.
I don't know whether this means anything or not, but you just saying that just made me burst into a grin from ear to ear. Roy Keane with the captain's goal against Juventus. Yeah, we've been pretty blessed with spectacular goals over the years, but that RVP one was absolutely no slouch. And I'll definitely, if we were having this conversation after a brilliant goal in a decade's time, we'll definitely be going, oh yeah, also that RVP goal. One of the joys of supporting a team at the very top of the world game of football is that you get to revel in excellence, which is a really pleasant thing when it happens. A goal I enjoyed very much indeed was Dimitar Berbatov's overhead kick against Liverpool. And we move on to that game, which is coming up later in the week. But I guess before we do that, being as it's January, we can't not talk about the transfer window. And Sir Alex Ferguson is really unhappy about some underhanded dealings involving a transfer of a young player.
This is fascinating, this Zeki Friars one, because I'm quite sure we had a long conversation with many people on Twitter about the time that Friars went to Belgium, saying that he'll be at Spurs in January. It just seems so bloody obvious, and that's basically what Ferguson has said this week, that he figured as soon as Friars went overseas that he'd be back at Tottenham, and this is, he does, as Ferguson said, smack of Daniel Levy. I don't think they've actually broken any laws or rules, FA rules, about any transfers. They've obviously arranged it with Standard Liège to do this, clearly, but seems like that's okay. Interesting though, isn't it, that clubs will have seen this and they might try and do that in the future. I mean, it seems that Spurs have paid Liège just under £1 million, €1 million or so. Liège paid United about a quarter of that, so they've taken a nice little uplift on flipping the player, and Spurs have paid 1/6 of what many people think the tribunal might have asked them to pay United.
I mean, that's super dodgy, isn't it? Just like super dodgy, not like a bit dodgy, but completely, totally and utterly blatantly dodgy.
If it's not breaking any laws, then it's all that's happened is that they've pulled one over United, basically. So it is because of the disparity between how FIFA sees the consolidation payments and how they do it in the UK, where a young player out of contract under the age of 24, it still goes to a compensation board. There's not a set formula. Finally, Spurs put out a statement, basically paraphrasing, don't know what the problem is, and United will get 5% of the transfer fee for him being at United since he was 12, so for 8 years. So that's great. That's about 50 grand.
Yeah, it's nice. You would have thought that there would be some law in place to say you can't just flip a player in 6 months.
So the thing is, you can't play for 3 clubs in the season, but he didn't play for United, he was out of contract. So a player can move between, his first club of this season was Liège, his second club was Tottenham, and that's perfectly okay. No
chance that the idea that somehow he was just homesick and wanted to come back to Tottenham after all.
I think that's total nonsense, don't you? Obviously, his agent's been on the phone to the media and said he felt disrespected by Ferguson. And this is a good point in a way, because the offer to him was £1,500 a week. It seems like he's on more like 20 at Spurs. And it was one of the debates we had on the pod last season where we said that United might not be competing at for young players. And we lost Pogba. A lot of that was to do with wages. Also, the fact that he wanted to play. We've lost Friars to do with wages and the fact that he wanted to play. Whether United felt he was good enough to offer him anything more is debatable. He'd been injured quite a lot, Friars. Had a good season where he wasn't injured, but throughout his sort of younger development time with United, he'd spent a lot of time injured as well. And I think the offer that they made him basically reflected the fact that they didn't rate him as highly as maybe Spurs do. Good luck to the lad. I hope he goes on and has a good career. He didn't do anything wrong at United. He just decided he wanted to move on. I think Spurs that have arranged the shenanigans to save themselves a few million quid. In doing so, they've probably made an enemy in United. But hey, face it, next time United wants to buy a player off Tottenham, they'll still be going knocking at the door.
And they're enemies anyway, aren't they, in a way? It's funny because there's a lot of, I don't know, I have a lot of positive interactions with Spurs fans, more than any other club. There's a weird, I don't know, don't get too much enmity between United and Spurs, but in the boardroom, there's absolutely, they hate each other, don't they? But we kept buying their best players for a while. That must have annoyed them a bit.
Other transfer rumours. Ashley Cole and Frank Lampard to United, both on freeze next summer. I mean, it doesn't look like anyone's talking about it happening in January, but they're both going to be leaving Chelsea because Abramovich has this policy of not offering contracts to older players. We lost Drogba last season. Lampard's definitely going. Looks like Cole will go too. I can't say I want either of them at United for slightly different reasons, and I can't say I really see it either. They're both on massive wages, so I'm not quite sure that United will be stumping up that. Don't really see the benefit either because, I mean, long term, that left-back problem needs to be fixed. I don't see why buying an older player would fix it. And in the centre of midfield, okay, Lampard would give you another season, but he's been pretty average for Chelsea, to be honest, this season. So all it would do is stunt the development of Cleverley, I presume, and wouldn't fix the real problem we have there.
Fergie, don't sign him up. Fergie, don't sign him up. That's all I've got to say about that. Lampard in January for 6 months I'd have, but that's obviously not going to happen. So beyond that, it seems completely ridiculous.
Plus, as I've said before about Ashley Cole, he's a c***.
You're just making sure that gets into the episode this week, are you? Things that have actually happened in the transfer market. Scott Wootton and Davide Petrucci have gone on loan to completely, just a random club picked out of thin air, no particular reason. They've gone to Peterborough.
Nepotism. Has it ever actually worked out for a United player that's gone to one of Fergie Jr.'s clubs? Seriously, so Tunnicliffe went Peterborough, had some games where he was in and out of the team. I mean, he did have like 20-odd games. Wootton went before, spent most of his time on the bench. Last time he was at Posh. Danny Welbeck had 8 games at Preston once. It's not really exactly worked out for player or United, or probably Peterborough either.
It's a weird one. I mean, you'd think that Davide Petrucci would tear it up at that level.
Oh, yeah, he's far too good for that level. I mean, one of the things is whether he gets enough time on the ball. I mean, Peterborough do play some decent football, so, that should help him. Wootton should be fine at Championship level now. He's got another year under his belt since he was sort of last there. I think he's an okay player. I don't think he'll make it at United. He's just not got enough class about him, and he's a little bit slow, so I think he'd be fine in the Championship, though.
Yeah, absolutely. But it will be very interesting to see if Petrucci can be the loan signing that actually makes a difference. Only going for a month, though, because it's his first loan deal. That's the initial length of time. A few players come back from loan as well. And lots of talk today, actually, about Danny Welbeck going on loan to a Premier League club, which seems absolutely mental. You want it.
No, I'm sure there's a few Premier League clubs that would want him, but what's the point?
Yeah, it's ridiculous because it's not like he desperately. I mean, he needs development time or whatever, but he needs development time at United. And if you were going to try and turn him into some sort of saleable asset, then it would make sense to send him out on loan. But if you want him at United in the long term, RVP tweaks a hamstring or Rooney does his knee or something, and then you desperately need Welbeck. He's been made the joint second most appearances for United in all competitions this season. A lot of them are sub appearances, but he's been heavily involved, and he's been really helpful when he has come on as a sub as well.
Right, I see no rationale for sending him away, and I'm quite sure that Ferguson will see the same thing too. It's tough on Welbeck at the moment because there's competition, but hey, do we want it any other way? No. If only we had that kind of competition in central midfield. If we had 4 outstanding central midfielders and a player of Welbeck's quality equivalent in midfield was sat on the bench, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, it's Anderson sat on the bench and sat in McDonald's, sat on the physio treatment table.
Talking of central midfielders, any signs that we might be buying one this January?
Doesn't look like it. I mean, Ferguson said quite clearly no spending. I mean, there was all the rumours about Herrera, and it seems that United are definitely interested in the player, but nothing solid yet.
He scored a bit of a worldie this week, didn't he? I don't know if you've seen that. Well worth checking out.
Indeed.
Transfer market elsewhere. No huge moves going down. Doesn't look like Paris Saint-Germain are going to sign Ronaldo in this transfer window. Falcao doesn't look like he's coming to Chelsea, but Demba Ba has gone to Chelsea. An excellent signing for them, I think. Nothing exactly setting the world on alight, but there rarely is in January. It just doesn't happen that often, does it? The massive January signing. Manchester City get mocked a lot by Man United fans for not being the most well-supported club in the world, and in some regards, rightly so. Lots of myths about where their support comes from and what percentage of support in Manchester's City fans, all that sort of thing. But people that were making fun of them for sending a lot of tickets back to Arsenal were barking up the wrong tree, I think, as an organised protest against the minimum away fan price of £62 and 900 tickets returned, I think, to Arsenal.
Actually, I have to say I'm on City's side with this one. It's a disgrace that tickets cost that much for a start, but it's the unequal pricing between matches that really offends. So, Stoke paid 35 quid and City paid 62. It happens to United fans as well. So let's not pretend it's just City fans. United fans pay lots more than other fans when we go to certain away grounds, and that's an absolute disgrace. And of course, look, the argument is it's supply and demand. Maybe they picked the wrong side with City, since they don't have the bedrock of support United does. Then it's perhaps easier to organise a protest because there's a smaller community, or it's easier for market effects to actually erode the demand. But with United, we'll take the maximum allocation to every single ground, and clubs have realised that and jacked the prices up as a result. And I really think the FA should do something about this kind of thing, but they never will because they think it's an open market, and one day this will go too far and fans will start staying away. For now, it's a one-off. I'm sure Arsenal will be quite happy to continue their policy.
I talk about this every time it comes up, but it's the stringer bell thing, man. It's inelastic demand versus elastic demand, and there's a slightly more elastic demand from Manchester City than there is for United. And one of the things is, like, City's fans have not been anaesthetised to the ridiculousness of the prices over the years. To them, it's a new experience as they become a Category A side, so they're running into this pricing structure for the first time, and United fans have had it slowly done to them over a number of years. It's like that thing of people putting a toad in boiling water. If you put it in boiling water, it dies straight away and try and escape or whatever, but if you slowly heat the water, it won't notice. And that's kind of the difference, really, is that City have jumped into this is a horrible metaphor, but City fans have jumped into the boiling water, whereas United fans have been slowly cooked over many years.
What you're trying to say is both sets of fans are being shafted.
Boiled alive. I don't understand how people can afford to follow football, in that way.
Well, you might want to ask Stringer Bell about that one, because, you need that kind of cash to do it, don't you? I mean, it's astonishing, really, to think back to the days when I used to go home and away to almost every game. Family and work and all that kind of restricts that these days, but as with most people of my age, I find. But I couldn't have done it on £62 a ticket. The cost of a season ticket at home plus £62 a ticket, or whatever it is to go away, plus all the travel, you would need a larger mortgage just to pay for a season's worth.
Absolutely, but a fixture which has a pretty darn inelastic demand for tickets is Manchester United against Liverpool, and that's what's coming up this week. My least favourite fixture of the season, a lot of people's very favourite fixture of the season. What have we got to look forward to in this one, Ed?
Beating the Scousers again, obviously. Dirty Scouts. Although actually some of their key players are in good form at the moment. Gerrard started scoring again. Suarez has instead of missing the goal, is actually hitting the back of the net these days. Rather worrying. Yeah. He always used to have everything up to actually doing the scoring bit, and seems to have added goals to his repertoire recently. Of course, they've got Daniel Sturridge now. Can't say that I think that's a wonderful signing. I think he's a pretty mediocre player. Got some talent, but it never fulfills on that talent. So I think it'll be a tough game for United. I know we like to mock Liverpool. They're down in 8th and some 20 odd points behind United, but they just look like they might be putting something together now.
Suarez and Gerrard, of course, the only players in that side that would get anywhere near the United first team, as evidenced by the world's worst advert in history, where Chevrolet FC took the massive misstep of putting half and half faces of United and Liverpool players. It's like a 30-second long half and half scarf.
It's 48 seconds of utter hideousness. Back to this Muppets thing. What kind of Muppet would do that? I mean, this is some absolutely dumb PR agency. If you're listening, give me a call and I'll give you some social media training. How not to get the effect you want.
Yeah, except I guess they're being talked about.
Not in a good way. They're trying to engage with football fans. Football fans are saying, you're idiots.
Yeah, they don't get it, do they? They don't get that that's not a thing you can do. You can't put the histories of Liverpool and United together. I have to say, it's kind of like uncomfortable to watch as a United fan. It must be an absolute nightmare to watch as a Liverpool fan, where every single one of those half and half things, the United player is substantially better, and all the kind of biggest club in the world stuff really doesn't apply to anything that Liverpool have done in the last 20 years. I guess they won the Champions League, but, apart from that, we don't like to talk about that. But yeah, it's just incredible. But having said that, this fixture's I never like it because of the hostility between the two clubs, but also it's pretty uncomfortable football-wise because the extent to which they'll raise their game against United is insane. And I think the Rodgers stuff, as easy as it is to make fun of him for his being Liverpool David Brent persona, the Rodgers stuff is starting to work, and they are starting to look like a proper team. And as you say, Suarez has started to put the ball in the back of the net. I cannot see a scenario by which the powers of narrative don't allow Luis Suarez to score. I'm pretty confident about that one. I think we're going to see that hand-kissing celebration.
As long as Patrice Evra scores a last-minute header, towers above Suarez at a corner.
Bring it on. How do you see the game going then?
I think you're right. I think Liverpool will raise their game. Of course, they're trying to play possession football these days, but United are heavily dominant in possession at Old Trafford. So I actually don't think Liverpool will come here and dominate the ball. I think United will have most of the ball, and the impetus on United to attack, And the attacking resources that United have are superior, substantially superior to the defensive resources that Liverpool have. So I do see United winning this game. I think it will be a tough one. I'm glad it's a tough one, and I'm glad in a way that Liverpool are playing. They've got some decent results in the last 4 or 5 games, right? Stoke game aside, because I hope there will be some really good focus, right? And United will realise that we really have to put in a performance for this game. Worried about the defensive side of things, of course. I can't see United keeping a clean sheet. What with Suarez scoring, be interesting if they do try and play a new formation though, and play Suarez a little deeper and Sturridge up front instead of Suarez leading the line on his own. And for United, no Rooney, so will Hernandez play with Van Persie slightly deeper, or will Kagawa play with Van Persie leading the line? A big decision from Ferguson there.
Talked about this on the pod last week. I really like to see Van Persie as our furthest forward player, but then of course last time the two of them played together it was 4-0 and they scored 2 goals each, so you can definitely see Fergie thinking, well, that's pretty much working. If you were just going on pure tactics, I think having Kagawa and Van Persie seems like it is a better match for the opposition. But that's not really how Fergie thinks, is it? Fergie's much more instinctive than that, and I think he's likely to favour Hernandez Van Persie. Then what do you do in the rest of the pitch? Because is he going to bring back Valencia, who had that much-needed break against West Ham? Rafael playing on the right of midfield, or basically apparently playing in a free role, because he was really everywhere, wasn't he?
Not tactically disciplined in that role,
No.
I don't think Fergie actually said have a free roll, Rafa. I think he might have slightly misunderstood that one, yeah. I can't see Rafael playing on the wing again. That was a needs must to give Valencia a break. I would assume that Valencia will be back. I think you can almost pick the side, right? So the defensive 2 is an issue, but I think it's De Gea, Rafael, Evra, Ferdinand, and then we'll see whether it's Evans or Vidic. And then I think it's Carrick and one other. On form, it's probably Cleverley. And then I think it's Valencia and Young and Van Persie, they're certain. And the other question mark is Hernandez or Kagawa.
I think that's the selection that makes sense. I think playing Vidic and Ferdinand together, I don't feel like we're ready for that. And I think a really interesting article by Liz Worsley on United Rant Ed. I thought that was it was very interesting to get that kind of medical insight into Vidic's situation, and he's having to meet with doctors for every game to see whether he's fit or not. And I think it's almost more likely that we'll see Vidic again against West Ham, and it'll be Ferdinand and Evans against Liverpool.
That's the pairing I'd pick. I don't think Vidic is quite ready at the moment. I think there's a tactical concern about playing both Vidic because he's obviously concerned about his fitness. He's playing very deep, and Ferdinand, who's had to adjust his game and play deeper. It's not the right balance for me. I'd definitely play Evans. It's hard to second guess Ferguson though, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And then we move on to the return fixture against West Ham. I think I hate to feel complacent about a fixture, but I do think we're going to win this one. I think just the impetus given to us, I guess a lot depends on how the Liverpool game goes and what it takes out of the players and who's left, because it's Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday.
Right, and the visit to Tottenham afterwards is a massive game, obviously, so there'll be some heavy rotation for United's home fixture with West Ham. But interesting you said, I don't want to feel overconfident, but we're going to smash this lot, aren't we?
Well, that's sort of how I feel about it. I feel like this one's somewhat written in the stars, but, it's a ridiculous thing to think, obviously. West Ham will be very disappointed, but then, you'd think they'd also take some confidence out of the performance and the fact that United were pretty uncertain And it is likely to be a slightly less full-strength United side, isn't it? So it could be a really tricky one.
It could be rather like your efforts at talking today, rather tricky. Paul losing his voice.
I'm doing my best, listeners. I'm here. I'm committed to the Rantcast till I die.
Yeah, one of those husky voices. We know what Paul does in his spare time.
I'm committed to the Rantcast. I'm Rantcast till I die, which may be within the hour. Can't be too certain about that. Before I do toddle off this mortal coil, let's do some predictions, shall we?
Well, I think United will beat Liverpool, but I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say 2-1, and I think it'll be a comfortable 3-0 victory against West Ham.
Can't believe you just did that, Ed. A clean sheet. Out of your mind. I'm going with 2-1. That's exactly what I was going to say about the Liverpool game.
Exactly what you were going to say, yeah.
It is. That's true. That's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Evra. I'm going to go with goal scorers. Evra, Suarez, Van Persie in that order. That's what I think is going to happen. Then the West Ham game, I don't know. I think an unimpressive 3-1 is what I'm going for.
All right. Well, 2 victories each there, and that's a pretty good return on the week and set us up for another victory at Tottenham, but we'll talk about that next week.
Absolutely. I don't know that I'll predict a victory in that one. Just if anyone's worried about excessive levels of optimism on the Rantcast, which not always worked out in the past in United's favour. But to be honest, the two things are not correlated, so you're all right. So assuming that this medical condition is in fact getting better, which I think it is, we'll be back same time next week. If you want to get us in the meantime, you can get me at UTD Rantcast on Twitter. You can get Ed at United Rant. You can get us both at unitedrant.co.uk, facebook.com/UnitedRant. Now with added posts again, having not been working since October, it turns out. Shows how much effort we put into looking at Facebook, doesn't it, Ed? Or you can write us a review on iTunes or unitedrant.co.uk/donate if you want to give us some money for some reason.
Like your medical bills or perhaps funeral.
Yeah, no, I'm all right. I'm fine. It's just a bit of a cold.
We'll scatter your ashes at Old Trafford, shall we?
All right, so everyone remember, people from Liverpool are just the same as us. They just come from a different city. And we'll be back this time next week.
Come on, you Reds.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.